So I need to make sure that I have enough items to keep up with all these new clients.
The sun has just come.
What's up, squirrel?
For 12 seasons, Brandi Passante was the queen of storage wars. Then, one day, she just stopped showing up the same way. Fans noticed something was off. Her bidding changed. Her energy changed. Even her face on screen looked different. What nobody knew is that her real life had been falling apart for years while the cameras kept rolling. There were whispers about a hidden breakup, a bar incident the public never fully understood, and a lawsuit she filed for $2.5 million. Why did Brandi really walk away? The answer is darker than fans ever expected. Brandi Passante's story did not begin anywhere near fame. She was born Brandi Lee Passante on May 16, 1980, in Harris County, Texas, a place shaped more by hard work than glamour. Life there had a rough edge, and that feeling stayed close to her from the start. Even later, when people began asking questions about her early life, she gave very little away. She kept that part of herself locked up tight, and that silence only made people more curious. As the years passed, rumors filled the empty space. People online threw around all kinds of claims about her past, from stories about Orange County bars in the late 1990s to whispers about hidden family problems. None of it was ever clearly proven, yet the mystery kept growing. At one point, Brandi even hinted on a podcast that her childhood felt so strange that she sometimes wondered whether she had been adopted. That one comment gave people even more to talk about. At the same time, basic things that usually feel easy to find, such as family photos or school records, stayed out of sight. So her Texas roots became part of her mystery, and fans kept chasing answers that never fully came. Somewhere along the way, her family left Texas and moved to Southern California. That move changed everything, even if nobody could have known it then. She went from an environment shaped by rough oil towns to a world filled with beaches, thrift stores, swap meets, and auction crowds. Southern California gave her a new setting, and inside that setting she started building the instincts that would later make her famous. She learned how to look at old things and see value where other people saw junk. She learned how to move through noise and clutter without getting distracted. That mattered more than anyone realized at the time. Her childhood itself was far from smooth. Brandi has described it as tumultuous, and that word says a lot. She grew up around a lot of rough male energy, especially from brothers who, by her own account, beat her up enough to leave bruises. She later shared a black eye on social media as proof of just how harsh those years could be. Living in that kind of environment forced her to toughen up early. She learned how to stand her ground. She learned how to read people fast. She learned how to keep going even when life felt unfair. That kind of upbringing did not make her soft, and it helps explain why she later looked so unshaken in rooms full of loud, aggressive bidders. Money was never easy either. There was no glamorous setup waiting for her. Before television ever found her, she worked a carpet cleaning job in Tustin for little pay and kept pushing forward. Long before that, she had already started building an eye for antiques at garage sales and flea markets. She did not learn that on television. She learned it in real life, by looking through piles of forgotten stuff and teaching herself what had value. That early passion mattered, because it later gave her an advantage when storage lockers entered her life. While other people guessed, Brandi had already spent years training her eye. Even so, her family history remained private. Unlike many reality stars who talk freely about parents, siblings, and childhood memories, Brandi stayed guarded. Very little was confirmed about her mother. Her father has been identified in one rare biography as Baldassare Joseph, and reports say he died after a long illness tied to COPD and lung cancer. When he passed, Brandi shared a short message online saying she would miss him terribly. That small glimpse of grief stood out because it was so rare. Usually, she said almost nothing. That silence helped create the image people still have of her as one of reality TV's biggest question marks. Then came the next turning point. In 1999, Brandi walked into a carpet cleaning company in Tustin, California, looking for work. That job led her to Jared Schultz. At first, he did not win her over in any charming, easy way. By her own telling, he kept pursuing her until she finally gave in. He even used a mutual friend to leave notes on her car because he wanted reminders to be nicer to her. She later joked that he wore her down. What started as a workplace connection slowly became a relationship, and before long, their lives were deeply tied together. As their relationship grew, life kept moving fast. They had children, Cameron and Peyton, and built a shared routine around work, family, and the pressure of getting by. For years, they were seen by the public as husband and wife, even though they were never legally married. That detail stayed buried for a long time, and it became important much later when their relationship finally broke apart. At the start, though, they looked like a team. They were building a life together, and both of them were trying to make something bigger out of ordinary work. That same search for something bigger led them into business. In February 2010, just before television changed everything, Brandi and Jared opened the Now and Then thrift store in Orange County. The idea was simple in theory. They would buy storage locker contents, sort through the items, and sell what they could turn into cash. In practice, it took real effort. They were not playing at treasure hunting. They were trying to build a living from it during a hard economic period, when money felt tight for a lot of people. That was also the moment producers began paying attention. Jared first caught their eye, but Brandi quickly stood out too. She was not just helping in the background, she was haggling, sorting, judging value, and speaking with a sharp honesty that cameras loved. Once producers saw the two of them together, they knew the dynamic worked. The result was Storage Wars, which premiered in 2010 and changed Brandi's life almost overnight. At that point, she was still a stay-at-home mom in many ways, balancing family life with part-time work. Cameron was around 7, Peyton was around 5. She was not living like a future television star. She was trying to hold together a home, help with the store, and keep life moving. Family struggles stayed mostly private, including health challenges involving the children. Peyton dealt with hearing-related issues, and Cameron faced his own health concerns. Brandi carried all of that while stepping into a world she never expected. When Storage Wars took off, it happened fast. Brandi and Jared were never meant to dominate the show in the beginning. They were supposed to be part of the larger cast. Yet viewers responded to them right away. Their arguments felt real. Their style felt real too. Jared was impulsive, loud, and willing to jump in. Brandi was watchful, skeptical, and much more careful with money. That contrast gave the show energy, but what made it work was Brandi's presence. She did not talk like someone trying to sound larger than life. She sounded like someone doing the math while everyone else got carried away. That made her stand out. While some buyers chased drama, Brandi looked at the little clues visible through the locker door and tried to judge the odds. She thought about resale value. She pushed back when Jared wanted to overspend. She rolled her eyes, made dry comments, and kept the mood grounded. Viewers trusted that. They felt she was the one person on screen who treated each locker like a real business move instead of a fantasy. Over time, that made her one of the most recognizable faces on the show. Fame, though, did not arrive gently. Brandi later admitted she had no idea how big the show would become. She thought it might stay small. Instead, people across the country started recognizing her in public. She went from being a woman most people had never heard of to a familiar face in grocery stores, parking lots, and random everyday places. That kind of attention unsettled her. She had not set out to become a celebrity. She was a regular mom trying to make a living, and suddenly, strangers felt like they knew her. Still, she stayed on the show and became one of its anchors. Through 12 seasons, she remained one of the most familiar figures in the Storage Wars world. Other buyers came and went. Some lost screen time, some disappeared entirely. Brandi kept showing up, and that consistency helped build her reputation. Fans began calling her the Queen of Storage Wars because she lasted, because she was sharp, and because she often looked like the smartest bidder in the room. Part of what kept people watching was the constant friction between her and Jared. Their bickering became a signature part of the show, but it came from something real. Brandi was often the one carrying the practical side of life, while Jared made risky choices. On screen, that turned into funny moments and memorable arguments. Underneath it, there was real strain. She was raising children, helping run a business, and watching money disappear on bad bids and failed ideas. Her eye rolls were funny to viewers, yet they also came from real exhaustion. That pressure only grew when A&E gave them their own spin-off in 2014, Brandi and Jared. Married to the Job. The idea probably looked easy on paper. Take one of the most popular duos from Storage Wars and let viewers follow them at home, in the thrift store, and through their family life. What came out of it was much messier. The spin-off pulled cameras away from auctions and into everyday life, where the energy felt different. Instead of fast bidding and surprise finds, viewers saw chores, parenting stress, money worries, and arguments that hit much closer to the bone. That shift hurt the show. Fans who loved the thrill of auctions did not connect the same way with domestic chaos. 8 episodes later, the spin-off was over. On the surface, it looked like a simple ratings problem. Under that, it revealed something more serious. Brandi later suggested that constant filming felt suffocating. Storage Wars had been brief and focused. The spin-off entered the home, the meals, the fights, and the moments people usually protect. That kind of exposure changed the mood. It took tension that used to flash for a moment and made it live in the room all day. After that, the relationship between Brandi and Jared seemed to weaken further. On screen, the playful edge gave way to something colder. Off-screen, the strain kept building. By 2018, they had quietly split, though viewers did not learn that right away. Because they were never legally married, there was no divorce process in the usual sense, but the breakup still carried the same weight. Brandi later confirmed on camera that they were no longer together. Once that truth came out, earlier seasons looked different. Many moments that once seemed funny started to feel like warnings. The next public shock came in 2021, when Jared faced a domestic battery charge after an incident at an Orange County bar involving Brandi. Reports said he shoved her after an argument and left before police arrived. He pleaded not guilty. By then, the relationship was already over, but the news gave people a darker view of the years leading up to their split. What had once been sold to audiences as fiery chemistry now looked much more painful. Even before that, Brandi had already dealt with another public ordeal. In 2013, at the height of her growing fame, she filed a $2.5 million lawsuit against Hunter Moore, the man behind the revenge porn site isanyoneup.com. Moore had posted an explicit video and falsely claimed it showed Brandi. She found out through messages on Twitter from people making disgusting comments and asking for more. Suddenly, she was dealing with humiliation, harassment, fear, and public confusion over something that was not even real. That case hit hard because it attacked her image just as her fame was rising. Moore had built a reputation by posting non-consensual material and mocking the people he hurt. His site fed on exposure, cruelty, and public shame. Brandi claimed the false video caused her anxiety, sleeplessness, sickness, and deep distress. She also feared the damage it could do to her family. A federal judge eventually ruled in her favor by default after Moore ignored the court and failed to comply with orders to remove the content. The judge permanently barred him from reposting it. Yet even that victory came with frustration. Instead of the $2.5 million she had sought, Brandi received only $750 in damages, along with legal fees. The ruling recognized her win, but the amount left many people stunned. It felt painfully small compared to the harm done. Later, Moore would face prison time on separate hacking-related charges tied to stolen photos and identity theft, and that gave some sense of delayed justice. Still, Brandi had already gone through the worst of the ordeal in public. Through all of this, she kept going. That matters. The image many people have of Brandi as a sharp bidder with quick sarcasm is real, but it is only one layer. Beneath it is a woman who came from a rough start, guarded her private life closely, built her instincts through hard work, raised children while under pressure, stepped into fame without asking for it, carried the strain of a collapsing relationship, and survived public humiliation that could have broken a lot of people. Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz ended their relationship in 2018, right after filming season 12 of Storage Wars. What made it so shocking was how completely they kept it hidden. On screen, they still stood next to each other, still bid at the same auctions, and still looked like a couple the audience already knew. Fans kept watching that familiar dynamic without realizing it was already over. For a long time, the truth stayed buried, and that silence changed the way every later scene felt. That secret lasted for nearly 3 years. During that time, A&E kept filming them while saying nothing about the breakup, so viewers kept seeing them together without any reason to question it. Then came April 20th, 2021, when season 13 premiered, and Brandi quietly said, "I'm not with Jared anymore." The line was short, calm, and almost casual, which made it hit even harder. There was no huge scene around it, no dramatic buildup, just one sentence. And suddenly fans had to rethink years of what they had watched. Jared spoke about it in a similarly flat way, acting as though they could simply bid apart and move on. Still, the distance between them was already clear. Off camera, they were avoiding each other at auctions, and the tension had started to show in small ways. Brandi later posted promo images on social media with demon-style emojis placed over Jared's face, which gave fans a strong hint that the split had not been peaceful. It also pointed toward deeper problems, including uneven parenting and fights that stayed mostly out of public view. By the time people understood what had really happened, the couple image that had carried the show for so long already felt like an illusion. Once the breakup finally became public, the show shifted into a new phase. Brandi and Jared were still on Storage Wars, but now they were bidding on their own, and every auction carried a sharper edge. He joked that he would bid against her on purpose. She openly called some of his choices stupid when he made bad buys. What viewers were seeing as fun rivalry was coming from a much more personal place. That made every moment feel more charged, and the show leaned into it. The tension was real, and it gave the series a new kind of drama without ever needing a big explanation. Brandi later shared that she had already been living like a single mom, long before the audience knew they were done. In a 2020 conversation with the Dad Diary, she said the kids missed Jared's scary dad voice when it came to discipline, but she was the one handling daily life. Cameron and Peyton had grown up with cameras around them, so the family had always lived partly in public. That made the breakup harder in its own way. The image people had watched on television did not match what life looked like at home, and the pressure of keeping that image alive fell heavily on Brandi, while she tried to protect the kids from more chaos. That same period brought another painful loss. In October 2020, Brandi's father died, and the grief hit her during a time when she was already carrying the weight of the breakup and raising her children. She posted about it with raw emotion, making it clear that the pain of that year had pushed her to the edge. Later, she kept honoring him online with old photos and personal captions that showed how much he still meant to her. His death changed her focus. Family mattered more. Privacy mattered more. The show was still there, and the cameras were still rolling, but her life had become heavier in ways viewers could only partly see. Then, things turned darker in public. On April 30th, 2021, Jared showed up at an Orange County bar where Brandi was spending time with friends. Reports said she asked him to leave, but he stayed, and the situation escalated into a loud argument. According to witnesses and police reporting, he allegedly shoved her twice. Brandi called the police, but by the time officers arrived, Jared had already left. What had been hidden tension suddenly became public, in a way nobody could ignore. The breakup was no longer just a quiet reveal from a season premiere. It had turned into a real legal issue. Soon after, the Orange County District Attorney charged Jared with misdemeanor domestic battery. He denied making contact, even though Brandi's account and witness statement said otherwise. Because he had left the scene, there was no arrest that night, but the charge still carried weight. It changed how fans looked at him, and it changed how the show had to respond. The old clips of their playful banter and shared business started to look very different once this came out. The story people thought they knew had cracked open again, and what they saw underneath was far more serious. A&E then had its own decision to make. Jared was part of the show's history, but Brandi was also still there, and the network had to consider what it meant to keep both on air after those allegations. Reports said the situation was being reviewed carefully, with the network weighing viewer reaction, sponsor concerns, and the future of the series. Brandi kept moving forward on screen, but Jared's place in the show became much less certain. After season 13, he faded from Storage Wars and never returned as a full-time cast member. The network never needed a loud announcement for viewers to understand what had happened. His absence said enough. Brandi, meanwhile, kept going. She continued bidding without him and built a stronger solo identity on the show, with Mary sometimes helping at auctions, and with Brandi carrying more of the spotlight on her own. The series found a new center. The audience that once knew her as part of a pair was now watching her handle deals, pressure, and conflict by herself. That shift mattered because it changed her role completely. She was no longer reacting inside an old relationship dynamic. She was leading her own story. One small post from Brandi had already hinted at where things stood. Before news of the bar incident became public, she shared a Storage Wars promo image with Jared's face replaced by an ogre-style emoji. She did not need to explain it. Fans understood the message right away, and later, after the legal news broke, the post felt even more revealing. It looked like a glimpse of anger she had been carrying for a while. It also showed how much she had already stopped trying to protect the old image. That same sense of strain helps explain why Brandi slowly pulled away from Storage Wars over time. Her exit was never about one sudden argument or one dramatic decision. It came from years of pressure building at once. Her relationship was falling apart. Her father had died. She was raising 2 children while still filming a show that often expected her to stay funny, sharp, and emotionally steady in front of a national audience. At some point, the distance between what she felt and what she had to perform became too wide. Grief played a huge part in that. Losing her father hurt deeply, and she still had to keep showing up to work. That kind of pain does not switch off just because cameras are nearby. While viewers saw the auction jokes and quick reactions, Brandi was carrying something much heavier in private. Over time, that split between her real life and her TV life wore her down. The show kept asking her to stay present and entertaining, while her personal world was asking for space, healing, and rest. She could feel herself being pulled in 2 directions. Fame added another layer. In a 2020 Facebook Live with the Dad Diary, Brandi talked about how strange it felt to go from being a stay-at-home mom to someone recognized in public. People started commenting on her body, her parenting, and her relationship as though they knew her personally. Everyday places no longer felt ordinary. A stop for gas or a quick errand could turn into a moment where someone watched, judged, or took a photo. That kind of attention changed her life in ways she had never wanted. Over time, she began to see how hard it was to hold on to a normal sense of self when so much of her life had become public property. Then, there was the work itself. The real auction business was already exhausting, even before television made it look more polished than it really was. Brandi has spoken bluntly about how dirty and draining it can be. You dig through dust, mold, broken furniture, filthy rooms, and sometimes things that are genuinely disturbing. A unit can cost thousands and still hold almost nothing worth keeping. That means the stress is physical and emotional at the same time. You are tired, dirty, uncertain, and still expected to make smart decisions fast. Add cameras to that environment, and the pressure grows even more. There were also tensions with other cast members. Brandi has hinted in interviews that some people on set were difficult to work with, and that certain voices at an auction could make the whole day worse. A workplace already filled with competition can become even harder when personal dislike starts entering the room. In a normal season, that would be tiring enough. In the middle of grief, co-parenting struggles, and public attention, it becomes much more draining. Small problems start feeling heavier, and the show that once felt exciting starts feeling like something to get through. She has also spoken about anxiety, therapy, and panic attacks, which gives a clearer picture of what life looked like behind the scenes. Raising 2 kids, dealing with money worries, handling public attention, and carrying private pain at the same time would wear down almost anyone. Brandi reached a point where stepping back was part of protecting herself and her family. That choice makes more sense when you see the full picture. She was trying to keep her home together while the show kept asking for more of her. And yet, her story did not end there. What came next feels more like a reset than a retreat. When Brandi returned as a solo bidder, the energy around her was completely different. She was no longer walking into auctions as part of a duo. She was making her own calls, taking her own risks, and living with the results herself. That kind of control changed the feel of the game. A wrong move was fully hers, but a smart one was hers too. And that gave her a stronger presence at the auction table. She has said that having that control feels freeing, and it shows in the way she carries herself now. That fresh feeling also comes from the way the show has changed. In recent seasons, the format has opened up more, with longer episodes and more room for estate sales alongside storage lockers. That gives each episode more space to breathe and lets the discoveries unfold at a better pace. For Brandi, it also means new surprises keep showing up even after many years in the business. A strange room, an odd object, or one unexpected box can still shift the whole day. That kind of surprise is part of what keeps the work alive for her. Her bidding style has changed too. Experience has made her more patient. In earlier years, she could jump in fast and chase the energy of the moment. Now she reads a unit more carefully and waits longer before committing. That makes her more dangerous, not less. She knows how quickly a bad purchase can wipe out a good day, so she trusts her judgment more and her impulses less. In this business, patience can save money just as easily as instinct can make it. Her life away from the cameras also feels like it belongs to a different chapter now. She has talked about new projects, including podcasting, and she has shown signs of being much more settled than she was during the hardest years. The old drama no longer defines her in the same way. People once focused on the relationship, the arguments, and the tension on screen. Now the focus has shifted toward her own voice, her own choices, and the shape of the life she has built after all that noise. One of the most memorable stories she has shared also says a lot about how the auction world works. Early in her career, she found black and white post-mortem photographs from the 1800s. At the time, they creeped her out, so she threw them away. Later, she learned they actually had value and historical importance. That regret stayed with her because it captures one of the hardest truths of the business. Valuable things do not always look valuable at first glance. Sometimes the item people ignore is the one that matters most. That idea connects closely to why she still loves the hunt. Money matters, of course, but it is clearly not the whole reason she keeps coming back. What still pulls her in is the mystery inside each unit. She enjoys the moment when an object leads her into research, history, and the story behind what she found. For her, the job still holds curiosity. After all these years, that feeling has not gone away. And maybe that is what makes her comeback feel real. She is no longer trying to hold together an image that does not fit. She is moving through the work as herself, with more scars, more caution, and much more clarity.